So it is that time of season. Casseroles are all the rage right now, especially if you're doing a Thanksgiving dinner. So we're going to do a squash casserole. We'll start with a summer squash and a zucchini. You're probably pretty familiar with those because they're available all year round, especially with greenhouses. And this one here in the middle is a delicata. And delicata is one of only about 4 or 5 squashes that you can eat the peel on. So that's going to go into our casserole as well. Delicata squash usually only available in late fall, early winter, and we're just going to start by cutting this in half. Make sure you wash it and dry it first. We are going to eat the skin. You can see the orange kind of texture here and a lot of seeds in this. So we're just going to take a spoon and scoop these out really fast, and then we'll get to cutting these. So cutting these pretty quick and easy. We're just going to flip these over, take the little stem ends off, and then we're just going to cut these into little half moon shapes, mezzolunas if you will, and give them about 1/8 of an inch or so, like so, and just cut the whole squash like this. Now we'll just toss these into a nice metal bowl and add the rest of our squash as we get it cut. And we'll do the same for our zucchini and squash. Just cut lengthwise and 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm cutting these by hand, but feel free to use your your mandolin. I guess you can see where my head's been at lately. But don't worry, never any spoilers. Never any spoilers. Once you've got it all in the bowl, we're going to give it a good drizzle. For this much squash, probably about 1/4 cup of olive oil. And about 2 tablespoons of herb salt. Now this herb salt was made with rosemary, thyme, basil, and oregano. And then we'll just give that a toss. One of the good things about the herb salt is you can see where it goes because of the herbs, so you'll know when you've got these coated really well. I've got a really large baking sheet. If your baking sheet is not big enough for all the squash, it's okay. You can break it down into 2 different batches. And you kind of want to get this into a single layer because we're going to roast this at 500 degrees for about 10 or 15 minutes until we get a little bit of brown on it. And that will help get some of that moisture out of the zucchini and the yellow squash. Let's talk about our fresh herbs right now. We've got a tablespoon each of rosemary, thyme, and oregano, pre-chopping. And then about twice that much, about 2 tablespoons or about 6 leaves of basil. Basil and squash really play well together. We're going to use a red bell pepper, some red onion, 4 or 5 good-sized cloves of garlic, and some celery. Being that it's Thanksgiving time, don't forget to save all your vegetable scraps because they make great stocks and gravies. After about 10 minutes, your squash should look about like so. And like I said, we're not really trying to get it brown. It's cooked through, and we're really getting a lot of the water off of it. And you can see it down there in the bottom of the pan. So now we'll let this sit in a colander for about 10 or 15 minutes, or however long it takes us to get everything else ready. So we have 1/2 cup each of celery and red bell pepper and about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And we went in with the celery and the red pepper first because we're using red onion. And we don't want to cook the color out of the red onion. And we're not really looking to cook this. We're just looking to get it a little translucent, a little softened up. Got a half a cup of red onion going in there next. And that's just a medium dice. And about a teaspoon of our herb salt. Again, we're going to draw out some of that moisture. All told, we're only going to cook this for about 3 minutes. About 2 minutes in, make a hole in the center, in goes our garlic. And again, we're just looking to get this hot, not cooked. We'll give that garlic about a minute, and we'll go to putting everything together. The last things we'll need to put this casserole together is about a 1/4 cup of drained capers, 1/4 cup of chopped sun-dried tomatoes, a cup of freshly grated Parmesan, and about a cup of coconut milk, unsweetened coconut milk. Oh, and the last thing, 8 ounces of Neufchâtel cream cheese. Neufchâtel is about 1/3 of the fat of regular cream cheese, and that's 20 calories less per ounce, so it's a healthier alternative. We'll start with our onions and peppers mix. We've drained that in a colander to get all the excess moisture off of it, and we're just going to start tossing in our capers, sun-dried tomatoes, Parmesan, and our 1/2 pound of light cream cheese, Neufchâtel. I did let the Neufchâtel come up to room temperature, so it should blend fairly easily, but it is cream cheese, so probably gonna have to force the issue. Gonna add our fresh herbs really quick. All told, it's about 1/4 cup, a little bit more of that chopped fresh herb. And now we'll add the coconut milk slowly, just to kind of thin this out. We've got it mixed pretty well, so we'll add in our squash. And we'll incorporate that very carefully so we don't break that squash up too much. And then from our bowl into our baking dish. Now, because we used cheese, this is no longer vegan friendly. However, still really friendly for keto. If your vegetarian friends don't mind dairy, it's still vegetarian. And then we can top it with some panko breadcrumbs. For this size, I'm going to use about 1/2 cup of panko breadcrumbs. Now I want to mention that everything got heated, everything got kind of halfway cooked, and that's because I'm taking this to a Friendsgiving, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that want to get in and out of that oven, so I've done this so that I don't have to cook this, I just have to get it hot, and that'll help everybody else in the long run. And then the last thing I want to talk about with this casserole is the numbers. For the entire recipe, we're talking 2,100 calories, 185 grams of fat, 103 grams of carbs with 25 grams of fiber, so net carbs 78 for the entire recipe. If you break this down and get 12 servings out of it, and it's going to be a good size serving, That's 175 calories per serving, 16 grams of fat, and only 6 grams of carbs. So again, keto friendly, diabetic friendly, and as long as your vegetarian friends can eat cheese, vegetarian friendly too. Okay, at this point I was at the halfway mark of my video, but I can't load more than 15 minutes at a time, so click on the icon for part 2. And if you don't want to watch part 2, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you can see when part 2 goes up in like 5 minutes. And I might be saying that wrong, but I like saying it like Neuchâtel. It sounds cool.